I have kind of two roles in the company. One is I look after Advisian Digital. This is our external data science and software arm. I'm also, for Worley Parsons, the global director of digital. So I have this unique opportunity to try to transform my own company, a global engineering company, and plus the customers I work with. You know, to be honest, when I come and speak to conferences like this, I'm a bit scared. Because despite my title, I'm not a data scientist. I'm not a software expert. I'm not a technology person. I'm 20 years of doing projects in oil and gas on the operator side, on the services side. I'm the guy that technology gets given to implement, to prove the business case, and to do the return to their shareholders. And so I'm hoping when I come here, I always get to learn lots. It's fantastic. But any professional that's got a bit of, self-preservation in them, when they're surrounded by 200 people that know more about a subject than you tend to change the subject. And so that's what I'm going to try to do today. I'm going to talk about leadership and where we have to take this. We get together and we talk about all the good things we're doing and all the fancy tech we have, and that's great. It's fun. But really great things happen in industry when we can show a little bit of vulnerability, when we can talk about the things that didn't go well. I like to call them my digital scars, and I've got lots of them. I've got the ones where I spent, a few $100,000 to put in a project control system on one of my major projects. And 3 months later, I realized they were still controlling their project with Excel, moving the data into this new program simply to print out the report for me. I have one example where we implemented a program in Worley Parsons that made 5 people's jobs easier and 5,000 people's jobs harder. I'm the only one, I guess. Or I wonder all the time when I'm demanding information from the field in real time, only to turn around and beat up my site with it, and then wonder why they stopped sending me information. So these are the things that I'd like to share over the next 2 days. We're here for a reason. All of us are here with companies that want to take a leadership position in this space. But we have to be very focused about where we want to play, where we have a meaningful right to play. First more, we have to understand what problem are we really trying to solve here when we talk about digital transformation. That in itself can be a challenge. So if you think about what we're trying to do with the people, the culture, and the behavior, it's about how are we going to shape the technology, how are we going to shape ourselves for the technology to disrupt us. But more so, we have to be very careful of the technology coming our way. It's usually fully formed, and it's got use from other industries. And if we're not careful, if we don't make the technology fit for purpose, use for our industry, it may shape us into something that we don't want to be. So it's both about the reception of the technology and the technology itself. I was asked by my board last year of Worley Parsons this question, because they're worried about what does this stuff mean for companies like ours in the industry we're in. And there's nothing special about that question. But I was very cognizant when we answered this question, we had answers at our fingertips. We answered it, and it was credible. But I left that meeting going, I had a great pause. We went away and rethought this approach. We went away and we said, if we're just answering that question that fast, we're so ingrained in our own perspectives, our own biases. Is the answer right? So to move away from this, we took a different approach. We conducted a wide set of interviews using a strategic radar process. It was designed to challenge the norms and the biases we have. We wanted to break through the hype and the rhetoric of what we were hearing. Every day in our Twitter feeds, we're hearing about disruption this, technology that. But we wanted to find those soft signals, those areas of opportunity that we felt we could play. It was expansive and wide-ranging. We decided to go across a number of different business drivers. So face-to-face, or via teleconference, we conducted over 500 interviews, our own people. I did probably 50 myself. I think there's somebody in the room today that participated, so thank you for that. We talked to our customers, the operators. We talked to our competitors, adjacent industries, medical, defense. We talked to academia about how they're approaching digital transformation. We talked a lot to the investors. Who's putting money behind this and what are they looking for? And finally, government and policymakers. We touched a wide geography. We talked to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and down to the frontline worker of the nascent startup. We asked them about these technologies and how they started to interplay. And we were really interested in the white spaces, where they're starting to connect. And if you think about 500 interviews, each a half an hour long, that's such an amazing bit of data that we were able to collect. And once we started to pull the data together, patterns of convergence and divergence, forces both supporting and countervailing, became apparent. The first was this. There's no doubt that everybody we talk to says the intent and the velocity of digitization is universally agreed. However, the pathway to success and the benefits it will accrue are not. Everybody's doing it a bit differently. There's a lot of pivoting, there's a lot of failing, and you start to dig into everybody's stories, you start to realize there's more scars than successes. This is, I think, leading to a crisis of confidence in our leadership. Because they're being asked, boards and CEOs are being asked to sign off on investment cases with sometimes unclear or difficult to quantify benefits. The second is who leads the regulatory risk. Industry and government are both looking at each other to lead in this area. Government saying, you build the technology, we'll figure out how to regulate it. Industry's going, tell us how you're going to regulate it so we can suit the technology. And there's a gap forming. The investment community is watching this, and they're pricing this risk in. And this gap that's occurring is actually slowing down technology adoption. Autonomous vehicles is a great example of where this is occurring. Governments are saying, start doing it, and when you run over somebody, we'll figure out how to regulate it. The people who are trying to build these things want some clarity. A bit of contention, but the feedback was that universities are starting to lose relevance on the development of future talent. And we in industry have yet to respond. If you think about what a data scientist needs to be, or a cybersecurity person, or a person who's a true Internet of Things person that can go and implement it on the ground, they don't grow in universities anymore. And so as industry, how are we going to build this future talent pool? Someone was telling me a quote, there's 60,000 cybersecurity vacancies in the States right now. That's got to be multiplied around the world. So how are we in industry going to actually train the workers of the future? And maybe it goes back to how we used to do it in the past. We feel there's no doubt that the development and the accessibility of the future talent in our space and projects will change the competitive landscape. Probably something that's going to be talked a lot about is that we're seeing the sacrifice of automation. The separation of cyber protection and cybersecurity is actually causing some of the operators to sacrifice automation for security. No longer are they worried about the protection of their data. In fact, they're worried about the protection of the asset itself. And that's something together that we do need to solve if we want to move forward in this automation space. Obviously, as a big, large multinational, we were looked at, where's our competitive advantage in this space? What's the future of a multinational or a big area? The consensus is that companies like all of us have a massive competitive advantage. We have capital, we have geopolitical contacts, we have a great customer network or distribution network. But we're also at a massive disadvantage. We could be slow, difficult to move, not agile, stuck in our ways, the immune system that was talked before. We know that the technology choices a company make are only a minor part of future success. Much more important is the ability of us as leaders to change our culture, change the behavior of the people that work with us on our projects and operations, and integrate it with harmonized systems and processes. These things have to go in concert. So for me, these are the three words that I constantly think about. We have to question our approach. We have to question our beliefs. We have to question the hype. And when human beings, when we start to challenge what we hold true, it creates anxiety. But anxiety is where creativity is. Anxiety is where you can take away your biases and your perspectives, and you can start to work the edges. Great things happen on the margin. So I tried to break through the hype. Hey, we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. It's easy. Hey, this is going to be fantastic. Don't worry, this will work. But in fact, in lots of cases, it's hurting us from changing our businesses. That anxiety, you have to hold on to it. It's not comfortable. People are looking to us for answers, and it's very easy to just give the answers back. So if we can hold on to this, work together, this is where we can question, this is where we can move our industry forward. Thank you very much.